still trying to figure out. He's still trying to see if I can like handle directions and other things like that.
Where have I heard that name, George Peters?
He was the sound supervisor for Harley Quinn.
Oh, damn.
Now, you might have seen him in the credits or something if you've ever seen the show.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Um, yeah, I looked him up. He's got. It's funny. His background on IMDb is like a bunch of short films, and then like he got a job for DC. It was like,
That sounds about
whoa,
right.
you
yeah.
upgraded. No, he's. I mean, he's good at what he does. Um, or since we're not live yet, how much
Well,
are they?
actually, I just hit the live button.
Oh,
Oh
are we
well.
live?
Yep, now we are.
Oh, well.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
Hello. since we're not live. No, wait. We are actually live. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody, to Gab Hominem, the show where it's live streamed when it's done and always available afterwards for you to come back and watch in case you missed it. As I often, well, actually, there's totally nothing that we missed last time. Everything's going good on the first take, right?
No, we did a great job last time. No, no. This is our first interview. This is our first properly broadcast interview.
First one.
So
got to be done on the first
take.
take.
All of you who are here already or who are coming in, welcome. Let's chat.
And it seems like let me. Oh, would you please? Oh wow.
What's
And it
up?
doesn't. Well, I'm trying to get the link to open on the YouTube app, not just
Oh, it's
everywhere
working
else.
for me.
Okay, well, as long as it's working on your end, you can hear yourselves. Cool. Um, but yeah, this is going to be a. I think this is going to be a fun one because we've got Kennedy Phillips and Chris Moore, sound designers and voice actors, who have worked on a number of different projects. Let's say, including yes, Hazbin Hotel. But also including other things like Hell of a Boss. I believe Kennedy has worked on. What was it? Aren't you also on Lackadaisy?
Yes, I'm also. Well, no, sorry, actually, not Lackadaisy. I'm working on Satina, uh, Tales from Planet Sima, and I'm also Mayhem and what's coming up recently, Farfetched, which is being done by Ashley Nichols.
And being premiered actually later today, last I checked.
Hmm.
Yep. But both of you have also done an audio production of your own for a show called Magus Elgar.
That's right.
Yeah.
Magus Elgar is a fantasy comedy inspired by the works of Terry Pratchett.
Mhm.
So if you're a fan of Discworld, this would be right up your alley. It's about two magic casters and two scientists working together between dimensions to fix magical anomalies they've accidentally caused. It's got quite a lot of star power in there. There's most notably we have Brian Stavali, we have Sandra Espinoza, we have Kellen Goff, who recently just finished his role as Diavolo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he did?
He was the
Good
villain in
for
that, and he was
good
really
for
good.
him. Good for him. Did you so you watched the episode?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it was like the whole series, man. He was the villain for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That Kellen has quite a range of voices that he's capable of doing.
The man is imaginative.
Oh
Props
yeah.
to him. He's super imaginative with his voice, and he looks at a character and he just embraces the essence so well. I really was surprised, actually. Kellen, props to you on your performance with uh, the Scarecrow from, I forget the name of the character, the Scarecrow from League of Legends.
Oh man, I don't know. I
I
don't
forget
play
the
that
name
game,
of
so
the
I don't
character,
know.
but I Fiddlesticks. That's the
Fiddlesticks,
one.
yeah.
Fiddlesticks. So impressed with his performance. I was like, whoa! Like the last voice actor that did that performance was great, but when Kellen did the voice replacement, I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah,
Um,
you guys, believe you. Well, actually, now that I remember it, Chris, you actually did a voice of one of the main characters yourself for Magus Elgar.
I did. I did the for the audiobook and the animation. I did the voice of Udo.
Yep.
And it was. Did we tell you the story of how that happened?
Of how you came to be, or
How I got the part. So it was Kennedy had been playing with this idea of a script for a while, and I mean, I had never even considered voice acting, but we were having this kind of party over at his house,
mm.
just this big social gathering, and I'm in the living room playing video games with a bunch of people, and Kennedy calls me into his bedroom or his
Which
computer,
was my office at the time.
which was his office at the time. He had this tiny little studio desk, which you had for years.
I actually replaced it. I actually just replaced it last year.
Yeah, like 7 or 8 years he had this thing.
Jeez.
and he calls me into the room and he goes, "Hey, so do you want to do some voice acting?" So I do the voice acting, we do the pilot, and he directs me, and I had no idea what I was doing, but still somehow, when we came to, he approached me with, "Hey, we're gonna make this 11 and a half hour, or what was it, 5.5 hour?"
5.5 hour.
Yeah, I thought it was
God.
11 hours. It's 11 episodes in 5.5 hours. Um, and this 5.5 hour audiobook into an actual series. And I go, "Oh wow," And he's like, "Do you want to do the voice?" So I audition, and with a webcam mic. I think I was using my webcam microphone at the time. And he listens to my audition, and out of the 1,000 or so people that auditioned for the part of Udo, because he put it up on casting call, was
Well, I used voices.com at the time.
well, yeah. So out of the 1,000 or so people that auditioned, he was like, nobody gets Chris's part the way that Chris does it, and I want to use Chris. So I got the part, and I had to take voice acting lessons. I had to teach. I had to learn I had to teach myself how to voice act, and I had to be taught how to give a vocal performance. And
part of his payment was in the acting lessons, which he
my payment, yeah,
sorely needed.
yeah, it was bad. And even now, I listen back to episodes early on, and I go, "Oh wow, that's." I really hear where I struggled as a voice actor, but as the series continues, it's also really interesting to see how I grow as a voice actor.
Right.
And I think it's really funny because that kind of amateur charm that I brought to Udo's performance, I think really shows through his character as he's going through the series, right? As he's living life, as he's learning these hard lessons.
Right.
And by the end of, and listening back to it all these years later, listening back to Magus Elgar, I'm like, wow, this actually works in a weird way if you're not being too technical about it.
Yeah, I do enjoy a lot of the delivery that Udo has in the show.
Yeah, there's some highlights there. Episode 3.
That
Or was it 2 where he wakes up tied to the table?
I believe it was 2.
It was episode.
Okay.
It was actually episode 3
It was-
where you were tied to
right.
the table.
Yeah, it was episode 3 where he wakes up tied to the table, and I give that performance where my voice is about to crack, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, please stop this. It's just it was so much fun, and we have so many moments in the show where or we have a few moments in the show, the few and far between, where I just get to give that kind of panicked, nervous performance, and I think that I just remember that being so much fun for me. Everything else that we've done that Udo has done in the animations after we did the audiobook has been kind of melancholy and
right.
But no, I'm not. Although I have done voice acting, I don't really consider myself a voice actor. Very much like Kennedy here, I'm a sound designer, sound editor, sound mixer, and being creative in sound design is one thing that I enjoy the most. I don't have my credits aren't as public as Kennedy's. The one thing that I have done, that's most recent, that came out in the last few months, is something called Alone. It's a short film about an engineer who's lost in space on her escape pod after her shuttle is destroyed.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
And
think Black Magic Design just gave you a shout out for your design work on that project.
They did, actually. They did give me a shout out. It was funny when you read the article, though, because it was a Black Magic exclusive. Most of the project was designed and edited in Black Magic, except for the sound design, which I used Pro Tools. So when you read the blurb, it's one little sentence that says Christopher Moore delivered his session to the sound mixer, where it was then sound mixed in DaVinci.
Which makes me go,
program.
hang on.
And I read that and I was like, I'll take it. But it was that was one of my more recent projects. I've done some other stuff in terms of video game VR. We went to the Infinity Film Festival and did sound design on a project called the Chimerical Era, which was an independent production. My first time ever doing anything virtual reality or augmented reality, which was tons of fun. Various audiobooks here and there. You can probably find my embarrassing list of Audible credits besides Magus, including some books that I wish I hadn't, hadn't done, whether both performed or edited. Yeah, but I've been doing this for about as long as Kennedy has. I think I'm maybe a few years behind you, because you went to school for
You're
sound way
you're about
before
2 to 3
I did.
years you're about 2 to 3 years behind me, if
That's
I recall.
right. Yeah. So what the fact that Kennedy and I are on equal playing fields right now is just amazing. The fact that I was able to keep up, or rather catch up to Kennedy.
Well, you did have to go. You did go to college, like after a little bit after Magus Elgar.
I did, right. I was going to college during the production of Magus, and then after school, that's when we finished Magus and finally published it. And following that was just for me personally, was just years of freelancing and finding whatever creative endeavor I could get my hands on, which led to a lot of really cool stuff. But yeah, Alone on the Dust channel, if you're into science fiction and short films, this is probably one of the more interesting productions I've seen. But you can find it on the Dust channel. Came out a few months ago, and it's called Alone.
I'll have to check that out.
Go watch it. We'll find a link and we'll hopefully post it for you.
All right.
I really enjoyed working on that one.
Yeah. Well, I would hope so. Because now because you've done a lot of work on your own there, and Kennedy has also been pursuing other ventures of his own, sound design and voice acting wise. Like, I saw, Kennedy, you got cast in a role for Wildcard, the animated short that's coming out.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a small role playing a police officer on that role. I have no idea like how integral a character he's going to be, because I haven't gotten to read too much in it, but I also can't talk too much about the show.
Right.
But it's shaping up to be a really fun looking show. I may or may not also be doing sound design on it.
Who is Wildcard? I'm not
Who,
into
who is Wildcard?
I'm not really into it. I'm not
Wild
really into this.
Right, Wildcard is is going to be an animated series. They're going to be building a pilot that's going to go up on YouTube, if I recall. It's a police comedy and also mystery.
That sounds like fun. I can
Sorry,
just
the way that you said that sounded
I'm
borderline sarcastic.
I'm just so excited. That sounds like fun. Okay.
uh, yeah.
I just think of what's the video game that you play with the dog and the rabbit?
Dog in the rabbit.
Sam and Max.
Sam and Max. Yeah. I think of Sam and Max, and you're really into detective shows too. So
I mean,
um,
I love those. I love a good mystery.
yeah.
I haven't written one myself. However, something that I like to do is I write role playing scenarios for like RPGs and stuff. But I
Mm,
don't usually do like D&D or Dungeons and Dragons. I actually will do like modern settings or a setting that I found really interesting and play around with it and make like a little murder mystery or a Lovecraftian mystery or anything that's tickling my fancy at the time.
right.
I think recently with a couple of people, I made up a murder mystery set in the setting of Zootopia after I'd seen of all things, a Caravan Palace music video.
I think I
Which
might
is
know which one
so
you're
good.
talking about.
Yeah, Lone Digger.
Yeah.
Where like I had this whole like murder mystery revolving around these snakes who have started moving into Zootopia as part of like an outreach program, and like one of these snakes is a prince that gets murdered, and they have to figure out like who done it, and why, and it's got a lot of intrigue and stuff. What's really funny is that like the people who are playing it, their characters are really out there. Like one of the main one of their cast is a pigeon who runs a detective TV show, um, Nancy Drew style. And another one is a professional wrestler for the WWF, which has a panda for its logo because, of course. Um, and he's literally a corgi.
Oh my.
I love
Uh,
everything that's being said right now. I just want to say that out loud.
Was
This is
this
so great.
was this the same one that you started running? Because I believe Crystal Laporte was there for one of those sessions for it.
No, that was a stream. That was a horror campaign that I did for my birthday.
Ah.
Um, that they played. That was like a. You could actually see that on my YouTube channel where I made a one-off horror game for them to like go through like this horrific cabin. I think I called it Schrodinger's cabin, where they were like stuck in a pocket dimension, dealing with this cat that had been there for decades. And what's really funny is that still to this day, like every now and again when I'm talking to Crystal, she'll respond to me, "There's a cat here."
Oh God. Because Crystal Laporte and Chris Ayers are one of the first people I talked to. It was actually right after that game was played, and at the end of that little discussion, she actually showed the art that crap. I never did figure out the pronunciation. Is it Morgane or is it Morgane?
Morgan, I think it
Morgane?
is.
Not
Yeah.
Morgana?
No.
No,
Oh.
I know I've heard the name Morgana somewhere, but anyway,
Morgana's
A
with a
League of
lot
Legends
is
character.
yeah.
I was going to say she's also a character from old British lore.
Oh, the old tale about
She's also
Arthur.
Yeah, Morgana. Well, that's sorry, that's Morgan Le Fay. There's also Morgana, who's from Darkstalkers.
Oh, I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
It's a fighting video game.
Ah.
You might have seen her on various Capcom projects because they're very excited about having Morgana in their fighting games, like their crossovers, but not enough to actually make another Darkstalkers game.
Right. But yeah, she showed us Crystal showed us the art that Morgan had, or
Morgan.
Morgan, thank you. That Morgan did of Atticus in like an anthro form, and she was just gushing over, and I'm like, oh man. And
Yeah, it was fun.
and speaking of Morgan, she actually did. It's a oh man, it's a Morgan is a she, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Uh,
I've gone with she.
you have all right. Because Morgan also did the art for your Mega Sterling character, who is on the thumbnail we have here.
Yeah, I've gone through like one or two iterations. The character that you see there right now is a second draft. Because originally he was a like he looked like a pangolin, but for reasons I can't get too deep into for the writing of Magus Elgar, we couldn't keep him like that. Um, but he's in this. He's considered a he's part of a fictional race in Magus Elgar called the Quanfloof, um, which are these dogs that have really big, fluffy manes, and their entire society revolves around how fluffy they are. Because as the ancient elders of the Quanfloof society had once said, the floof makes the woof.
Oh, that's great.
We have a question here from
Yeah.
one of our followers or one of our viewers.
Yes,
Do you guys have
Zorbaeus.
any tips for aspiring voice actors and how to know what you can do with your voice and what suits it? That's a really
Well,
good question.
I think we
I could.
actually kind of. I think we kind of got a start on this when Chris was talking about how he got the part of Udo Malaki. Sort of, I think.
Well,
A little bit, yeah. I think Kennedy's got some really good information for us here.
I was about to get into that. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. As you were, sir.
I'm just waiting for me to start talking. It's like you see the thing about acting, and then Chris goes, "Yeah, that's it. That's exactly the thing that I was imagining that you would start.
Online
This
discussions.
is how you would actually start this discussion. But go ahead, continue doing the discussion."
As if you weren't already. Resume.
Anyway, so what I could give you for first-time voice actors is I highly recommend that you take some kind of acting class or join some kind of drama club. There are actually there are actually like drama clubs for adults out there. Mostly they're doing streams nowadays, but um, giving yourself the opportunity to get some acting practice, like of any kind, is good. Because the thing about voice acting is you are embodying the body language that you normally would not be able to see.
Right.
All of your performance is in your voice. So learning how to develop that variation, the nuance of the things you would hear in your voice, that is a challenge, especially if you've never done acting before. If you're starting out, there is a website that I go to every now and again called castingcall.club, where they have dozens of unpaid projects that you can just cut your teeth on. You can practice and toy around with auditioning. Um, a big thing that I would say about people like Chris is that sometimes making your own projects helps, and making audio dramas has never been easier, especially nowadays where you can get Audacity for free, just hit record and just go. Getting roles for like cartoons and other things like that is a bit of a challenge because the market is pretty saturated, but uh, the nice thing about voice acting is that there's not like a ridiculous pedigree. It's just that when it comes to like say the big shows like Cartoon Network, the big channels like Cartoon Network, Fox, Nickelodeon, and the like, their sphere of voice actors are pretty like tightly knit because they've got like voices that they can go to that they're like, okay, we know who they are, we know what they do, we could just hire them on. This is why you see like John DiMaggio and Steve Blum pretty much everywhere, because they have enough variation in their voice to develop those kinds of things. which is the big point that I want to suggest to you. Um, Start building a stable of voices that you can do. Now, a big thing about voice actors is that the variation is very important because that way your versatility can get you additional roles in whatever you get casted for. Now, there are some people out there that are good at one thing, like specifically one thing. That is
Mm.
their thing, and that's fine. That's okay. It's just a little bit harder to make that kind of role more consistently.
Right, right. There are fewer, and the jobs are kind of few and far between. And if you're kind of a one trick pony with your voice,
Mhm.
but that's not a bad thing. There's a lot of voice actors out there that create a career off of doing only commercials that are that they get cast for bright, happy, cheerful, friendly, warm delivery of product, or advertisement for a product, and they completely make a career out of it. Or you're doing only soft spoken word audiobooks and you make a career out of that. But what Kennedy had said earlier, um, really does resonate, because I remember Kennedy telling me, he's like, Chris, when you're in the car and you're driving somewhere, you've got maybe an hour, 30 minutes to yourself. Play with your voice, invent something to say, and say it in a funny way, and just kind of read billboards that you pass by, and read the lettering on them, and see what you can't do with that copy, with that script, because every line that comes your way is something to be interpreted, um, and something to be practiced while you kind of find your, or rather while you hone your craft.
Mhm.
And that's actually something that's really held true, actually, but even when I've taken voice acting classes, is except having a voice acting coach there with you is much easier, because then a voice acting coach can give you direction and give you suggestions and
Mhm.
ways to go, and say, well, yes, that was what I was looking for, or no, that's not the performance that I was looking for. And as a voice actor, one thing that you're you know always wanting to do is learn to follow direction, because you're there with a client, and the client is looking for a very specific performance. um, and it is a full-time job, whether you're getting paid for it or not. Whether Because most of what voice actors do is audition, and then they'll maybe get like 2 hours in the booth on a job, and then they'll spend the rest of their day or week auditioning until another job comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that what he said was a really, really true example. And Zorbus, I hope it works out for you. Best of luck.
Always. There's always resources out there to talk or to get a hold of people who can help you out.
Yeah,
Um,
there's tons of YouTube
oh yeah.
channels and blogs and resources, like, just and then even there's a bunch of voice actors on Twitter. I'm not really
Oh
a Twitter person, but
That is
reach
actually a
out
good place to get some practice in and
yeah.
see things.
reach out to a voice actor on Twitter and ask them a question. Say,
Well,
introduce yourself, say hello, and definitely don't jump don't jump
don't
to the
jump.
demo reel
Don't
right
just
away.
don't jump ever.
Just don't jump ever, but don't jump to the demo reel right away.
Yeah,
Um,
you definitely need some practice before you get into that, because the demo reel is supposed to be your calling card, your greeting card. And if you're not quite at that level yet, where you know what you're doing, or where you're comfortable enough to do your voices, it's not going. It doesn't matter like who ends up designing it. It's not going to sound. It's just not going to sound ready like you're ready,
and
and that's
yeah, and you can
unfortunate.
even listen to a bunch. Go find some voice actors, and go visit their websites and listen to their demo reels, and you can kind of compare the differences. There's a few friends of mine. When someone asks me, hey, I want to make a demo reel, I'll send them to a voice actor's website and say, go listen to this demo reel, and go check this out. See what their performance is like, and see if you're, similar to, but not exactly like, because your goal is to be uniquely your own voice, uniquely your own self, uniquely your own, your own whatever. But you definitely want to, you definitely want to be able to give your all on your demo reel, because that is who you are. They're going to listen to that and they're going to say, that's what I want, that's what I'm expecting to hear.
Definitely good to check out. There's a Discord server for the voice acting club. There's a lot of helpful people to help you out with that.
Oh yeah, there's. I've actually joined the voice acting club. I haven't gotten a chance to do much in there just yet.
Right.
But it looks like they're doing they're talking right now. I think they're doing they're doing a Q&A with somebody.
It might be Reed Rudy, if I recall, because I remember because I've been getting a few acting lessons rather, from another voice actor by the name of Jun Yoon, and I talked with him on the show before. He's really cool, and that's kind of how I figured out that he's doing his own acting lessons sort of thing for absolute beginners. But because of him, I learned about Reed Rudy, and now I'm waiting for his next round of classes to start in a couple weeks. But
nice.
Yeah, that might be what they're doing in there. Because I saw something was mentioned about it. Well, actually, it could be going on in March. Tend to announce these things well ahead of time. But they have those little Q&A things every now and then. Good stuff. It's also a good place to get feedback if you're fine. That's the other thing I would suggest doing, is listen to your own voice every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
I do that all the time.
Learn to love. If you're a voice actor that hates their own voice, get over it.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's gonna take that is a hurdle you will have to get used to.
Yeah. Learn to love your voice, and then even better, learn to critique and direct yourself, and bring variation to your performances. That is I would think the number one hurdle that most beginning voice actors have to deal with. I mean, usually if you're a voice actor, you're not going to go, oh my god, I hate the sound of my voice.
Speaking of which,
no, you really don't.
Have I got a story for you?
Oh god.
So I mentioned this to you the first time that we had this little talk, but I'm gonna do it again because we missed it last time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The first time that I did voice acting with Christopher Moore was a bit rough. We were working on the first episode of Magus Elgar, and I had to come to terms with the fact that I made the decision that not only was Chris going to be one of my voice actors, he was going to be one of my main characters. Now, the issue with this is that I was outsourced. I had casting done through voices.com, and a lot of these people who go on pay to play websites had a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris did not. So when I got him into the recording booth and started recording with him, even after all the voice acting classes, there was a bit of a difficulty when it came to variation, where the opening monologue that I gave him, there's a part where he has to say to he talks to the narrator and asks him to excuse himself, and the narrator says, well, he says, I could use a little privacy. It's a stairwell. All the same. Very well, I know what I'm not needed, and then the narrator leaves. Simple as that. Here's the breakdown of how that recording went. All right, Chris, I want you to feel a little bit awkward trying to excuse the narrator. All right? All the same. Okay, that sounded a little bit flat. Let's try going with a little bit of elation. All the same.
Oh,
all right, that was the exact same. But all right, let's try going with angry. Like, I want you to be like really angry when you say this to him. It's like, okay, I got it.
all the same.
This went on for an hour.
Oh.
Where I told him, all right, Chris, you are definitely not listening to any of my direction. He goes, what? I'm doing different things every time.
Oh.
So he brings me into
So
the booth.
I bring him into the booth and I line up all of his takes
Like
and
he
play them.
like he matches the waveform on top of one another, and he just take after take after take. There's like 30 takes,
Oh.
and he
And it
hits
sounds
play.
like the goddamn Borg collective. Every single take was exactly the same.
Oh man.
And even I still don't get tired of that joke. Even 10 or how many ever years later, it feels like 10 years. It's been like 5.
It's been
but
5.
Mm-hmm.
God, even 5 years later, it's still just the same.
Oh man, that's gotta be funny because I took a shot at it myself a number of years. I forget how long ago it was now, but it was back when like Halo was still used for a lot of those like machinima. You know, here's a story we put together using Halo gameplay footage and somebody's voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
I did a small part in that, and what was supposed to be the villain only showed up in episode 3. I'd done a couple of extras in the meantime. But I went and listened to it, again, about a month or two ago, and I'm like, I could have done a lot better with this. I mean, it sounded fine for being recorded on an iPad, first gen iPad at that. But then I start to listen to I record my own auditions now and send them out. But between the takes, I go back and listen to it, and if I feel like I could try to do something a little bit better than that, I'm still hearing my own voice on that, and when I compare it to how I was back then, I'm like, it's a good thing I'm getting some feedback here.
Yeah, honestly, like my first experience with voice acting, like actual voice acting, was in early college, which was around 2007
Ooh.
of all things. In 2007, I had a laptop microphone. Or no, I didn't have a laptop microphone. I had one of those cheap headsets, like the kind that you would like go to do conference calls with,
like the one ear earpiece and just a headband with a microphone hanging on it.
Yeah, I had one of those. I had a HP laptop and WavePad, which is a piece of recording software that has one track. And that is it.
You did a whole audio drama.
I did a whole audio drama of that. And here's the thing. I did it in such a way that was very dumb, where I did all the roles in one take all at the same time.
Oh.
And I did all the voices. And what was dumb about that was that I also had to do the sound design in one take, where I would record a sound effect and then I'd have to splice it into the single track. So it was very much a linear form of editing.
He was printing as he was going, so you had to get it right. Every take had to be right because you were printing it onto the last track, right?
Yeah, and if I screwed up, I'd have to go back and start over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's terrible. It is hiding somewhere on the internet, and I dare not share it or give any clues on what it was about.
Good luck finding that gem then.
But it's somewhere on the internet, and it's not great. But doing it for like 10 episodes, I felt good. It was a nice thing to do while I was in college. And it encouraged me to do more of that kind of stuff. And hell, it eventually led me to doing sound design work for a career.
Yeah. I think it's always good to, have your starting point for a good reference. I talked to Chi Chi and another online artist goes by Chroma9. And Chroma, got rid of all of his early stuff because he just really does not like it. But Chi Chi says that she has her first ever musical recording still on YouTube, just because she's like, yeah, it's kind of where I started. I'm just, not going to get rid of it. A lot of people can have their own different ways of going about that, sure. But I think it's still important to have that good point of reference to let yourself know, hey, I'm doing a lot better than I was then.
Yeah, I mean, something that I recommend to anybody who's doing the voice acting or doing anything really, do not delete the things that you have made. Don't get rid of them. The reason
Mhm.
why is because they there's something you can look back on and see how far you've progressed. You could say to yourself, "Man, look where I was and look where I am now." And
So,
it's a humbling experience. I have videos from high school where I edited god awful music videos for my swim team to I want you to take a guess at what band I used for the music video
Blink
because
182. Blink
it was
182.
it was I will give you a hint, it was mid 2000s.
um,
Lincoln Park.
that's what I
There
was
you
gonna say.
go.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. God.
Oh my god.
I,
Oh.
it is awful, and I have it on a
Swim team
DVD,
tried
and I
so
could I
hard.
could load it up at any point and destroy my career posting this thing as cringe content. But
But it's funny because you're a phenomenal. Not only are you a really, 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 really creative sound designer, you're a phenomenal editor too. I've seen this man rewrite the script for a movie using the recorded footage and make
Jesus.
it make sense.
oh god, I've got a story about that if you're up
This
for it.
one
Go for it.
feature you worked on
Okay, not the
was just
feature. I
oh,
can't.
it's
I'm
not
not going to talk about the feature because it hasn't been
okay.
released yet. Um, but in grad school of college, I was working with a bunch of other students to try and get my master's program or my master's degree. The oh, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Um, in this project, one of the things that we had to do in our production was called a cycle. Now, a cycle was a short film about 10 to 15 minutes in length, where they pretty much gave us free reign on whatever we wanted to work on.
Hmm.
And they would guide us a little bit on where we would go, but that virtually we would pretty much do all the work ourselves of organizing this thing. Um, I got to work with a guy who wanted to do a film about a husband whose wife was in a coma, and he wants to go into her mind to try and wake her up by using the special dream machine. Now, if that
Oh.
doesn't sound familiar to you, that is
The Cell.
similar to the plot of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh.
But it
Also,
was a student film, so I was interested and I wanted to be a part of it.
I think
So
I
I
think
was
I've
assigned.
seen I'm sorry, I think I've seen four student films, including yours, that have similar plot lines.
I mean, yeah, but that's
Mhm.
that's really just how it be sometimes. Student films have a lot of.
Eloquently put, Kennedy.
For,
But yeah, so you were
anyway,
working on.
so the thing about this film, it's called Fragments. I'm looking it up on Vimeo right now because I think I've got it lying around somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, the so the thing about this film was that the director did not have a lot of experience directing a sci-fi.
Mm.
And he had this problem where I would work with him and I would say, all right, I'm thinking of maybe doing this or this or this. And instead of giving me any real feedback, he would go, that sounds great. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, go ahead. And I would, in the back of my head, I'm sitting there like, I hate every second of this. I hate this so much because there is nothing worse than a director who doesn't know what he's doing than a director who just lets you do anything and
Uh,
doesn't care. And he just let me do whatever I wanted, but didn't give me any feedback of what he wanted. And that could drive somebody nuts.
Mm,
So
man.
I discovered a problem very early on with this project is that we go through the whole thing. We shoot the whole thing. I never actually get the opportunity to work on. I actually don't get the opportunity to be on set. So I didn't get a say in anything that was happening on that because I was working on another project at the same time because we all worked on like 5 or 6 projects. Um, and I get the footage and I come piece it all together and I realize, hey, there's a slight problem with your script. He goes, well, what's that? I go, it doesn't have conflict.
Oh, jeez.
The guy goes in, he goes into her mind, tries to fix the thing, fails 2 times, and then the third time it works. And that's it. That's the whole thing. So the editing teacher turns to me and says, "You have to do something about this."
Oh, jeez.
No pressure.
No. Oh.
And I sit back and I'm like, "Oh God, what am I gonna do?" So I had to think really critically on what I could do with this, and find a way to save this project. After about like 5 days of mulling through the footage, I finally said to him, okay, I need you to let me have 1 minute of the project. Just 1 minute to myself. I don't want any input. I don't want any suggestions. I just want you to leave me alone and give me 1 minute of this project to do whatever I want with. And he says, okay. And I work
Of course
for
he does.
2 or 3 days. And when he comes back in, I have spliced footage. I've spliced outtakes, I have spliced alternate takes, and I have rebuilt the entire thing to build a completely new scene based off of garbage footage that we weren't using to turn the entire experience into a fragmented mess where the third time he tries to save his wife, the program starts to collapse.
Oh.
It
And
saved the movie.
it brought conflict to the movie. Like this 1 minute that I added. And like I remember the first time that I watched it and like I showed it to the director, he looked at me, he's like, dude, I got chills.
You're welcome. You're
And I'm
That
sitting there like, you goddamn right, you got chills.
that is a feat of just entertainment engineering. That's what I call it. That's just you pulled some miracle worker, shit with that.
Like one of the things that I was best at as an editor was making something out of nothing. Because for a lot of the way that I was doing editing, I'm not thinking about how to construct it linearly. I was thinking about how can I make the footage work. A great example of this, I had this one absolutely talented woman who whose name is eluding me right now, but she was working on a project on our first year, one of our first cycles, where the film is about the Grim Reaper going through therapy,
Hmm.
where he's talking about why do I do the things that I do? Why do I find dissatisfaction in what I do? And it was a drama, and the original video, the original way it was written was not very compelling,
Hmm.
where the entire scene was shot in therapy and then it cuts to a later scene where he's out doing his thing, and it wasn't very compelling. I said that twice. I apologize.
It's all right.
So what this editor did, I want to say her name was Wendy. She took the footage of the Reaper going out and doing his work, and interspliced it with the therapy, and it completely changed the feel of the movie
Hmm.
in a way that I found completely engrossing. And it really changed the way that I looked at footage. When you're editing, you're not thinking, you don't need to think about, does this scene fit here? Does this entire scene fit here? What pieces of these things can you take apart that you can intersplice and make it work? What matters is the context of the scene. It doesn't have to be within, each scene doesn't have to be isolated within its own pocket of within its own pocket dimension. A great example of this recently that I was watching was, did you guys see the HBO series Watchmen?
I've heard of it. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Haven't seen it
I
myself.
have. It's incredible.
It's
Another good thing.
it's fantastic.
No, it's
They
incredible.
there's a piece in this TV series where one of the characters has to take these pills, and these pills help you remember things. Like they have like genetic coding in them that let you remember critical moments of your past. The big thing though is that you're not supposed to take somebody else's pills, and one of the characters swallows an entire bottle.
Ooh.
And the next episode is them experiencing a character throughout their entire life in a very fragmented, non-linear manner, where you're not even sure, you're not sure what year it is, you're not sure who she is, you're not sure what's going on. And even like as she's going through these big memories, which are all done out of order, she's experiencing people from real life coming in and interacting with her while she's in her coma,
Hmm.
dealing with this overdose. Like like a character like this character busts out of a window, and then time seems to stop, and another character from modern day walks up to them and says, "Hey, if you're aware of what's happening, if you can hear me right now, I need you to try and blink. Because right now, on the surface, your eyes are open really wide, and it's kind of creepy."
So I guess the advertising campaign here is, if you screwed up your project and you need someone to fix it, call Kennedy Phillips. He'll take that pile of junk and
Also,
turn it into it and give you chills.
also give Watchmen a look, because Jeremy Irons plays Osmandius, and he is so good.
Yeah.
He's good at doing over the top villains. Circling back to mentioning D&D before, the D&D movie.
Yeah.
Oh my
Wait,
god!
they did one of those.
They did
Oh
one
my
of those.
God.
Jeremy
So-
Irons played the villain, and one of the main characters. I don't remember the white guy's name, but Marlon Wayans plays the other main character.
Okay, so what I will say about the Dungeons and Dragons movie is that it's such a terrible movie, but it's a terrible movie that you need to watch, because
Yeah.
there are few performances that I have seen Jeremy Irons give where he gives even less of a fuck. He does not care, and it's so good because of it.
There's an announcement here for Dungeons and Dragons 2022.
Oh god.
So if there's any hope for, it says plot is undisclosed, but it's an adventure fantasy. May 27th, 2022 is what IMDb says, and this was updated last July.
I hope.
Oh god,
I
just
hope
making
they
me
bring
think.
him in.
I'd love for him to come back, even as a cameo, just so he could come in and just be like, "My destiny."
Even as a cameo, his performance would bring so much ham that they wouldn't have to call catering for that production.
There, oh my god, there's actually like a I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to
This
spoil it, but
is no
there's a
game.
part just to give you an idea of like just how perfect it was for them to cast Jeremy Irons as Osmandius. There's a part where like he's in a they're talking to him like where he's like having a trial or whatever, and they go, "Do you have a defense to your actions?" And Jeremy Irons stands up and says, "One moment," and then he just lets out this really long fart, and then just goes,
Wait, really?
The defense rests," and then sits.
Wait, really?
Oh my god. Oh man. That's amazing.
That's what was that? What was that movie? The role-playing film about all of the. It wasn't the web series, The Guild. I'm thinking of the feature-length film.
The one that I showed you,
The one that you showed me. Yeah, we all
that
go
is that is The Gamer's Darkness Rising
Darkness
by Dead
Rising.
Gentleman Productions.
Thank you. That was
this
amazing.
That's a film where, funny enough, it's not a film about like a Dungeons and Dragons thing, but rather it's about the game itself, where it's about a bunch of players who are going through a D&D game where the DM is trying to write his own module, and it goes about like the players going through their game. But what's cool is that they actually intersplice between them on the game board and them in the game room and them in the game dressed as their characters acting out everything, and they're constantly slipping in and out of character even in the game world, and it's a riot. To give you an idea of like how talented these guys are, like they do really good D&D games. They do really good like parodies of D&D stuff. Um, are you familiar with a chick track called Dark Dungeons?
I don't think I am.
So, if I recall, JonTron did a thing about this, where there's this guy named Jack T. Chick who would make these little comic books about how all of the sins that we do are going to send us to hell. And it would be these are like really heinous things where it's like, oh, being gay will make your dick fall off. Dungeons and Dragons is Satan worshiping, so on and so forth. And reading this chick track of Dark Dungeons is a riot because it's so hilariously inaccurate. These guys who did this Darkness Rising production actually did a honest to God live action adaptation of that comic that was so accurate and so good that the guy who made the chick track, Jack T. Chick, actually gave that film his blessing, not understanding that they were making a parody.
Oh no.
But well, here's the thing though, like they kept all the lines word for word. So there's no way that he could mistake it as a parody. They have a line in this film where they're walking around in college and goes, "Oh no, it's the RPGers," and it plays this like montage to rock music, like these guys are from a frat or something like that, where they're walking down really cool and like, what? Who are they? It's like it's the RPGers. They play this evil game, but we tried to get them kicked off of campus, but they're just so popular.
Oh man, I gotta check this out. This sounds like my kind
It's
of
called
thing.
Dark Dungeons. I know JonTron did like a video like reviewing it. I don't think JonTron was aware that it was a parody, but as soon as you see the actors, and if you've had seen Darkness Rising, you know.
Oh man, that's great. I gotta check this out. Oh, that just sounds funny. I gotta check that out because absurdist humor like that. I got it. Like, because it reminds me of this story that I had heard, something about the live action Garfield movie, that
Oh, jeez.
Bill Murray accepted doing that movie because he looked at the script and saw, I don't remember the name of the director on that film, but he thought it was like this pair of brothers who are directors that are known for doing some like really gritty, like more intense type of movies.
And he mistook who they were.
Yeah, and didn't know that it was basically the same guy behind Cheaper by the Dozen.
Yup.
I'm like,
Here,
how do you do that,
but
Bill?
well, here's also the thing. Here, do you want to get Bill Murray into your production? Here's how you can guarantee that you can get Bill Murray into your production.
Oh, jeez.
First, call Bill Murray and tell him he has a film shoot at your location at this time. Step 2, hope he shows up. You do not cast Bill Murray. You just ask and hope he shows up.
Oh, that's funny. Oh.
Bill Murray will not, like, Bill Murray oftentimes won't even show up to the set or whatever, or he'll just kind of wander onto set or something like that. He does not care. And I cannot think of I can't think of too many people where it's unnerving, quite like Bill Murray, where you're not even confident he's going to show up.
Oh my God, that's.
I mean, it's certainly not the worst thing that I've ever heard. I mean, when I was working on a short film at college, one of the actors that I had was apparently was being like a colossal asshole when he showed up on set, to the point where they had to kick him off.
Oh,
And he tried to apologize by saying, by the way, I was heavily medicated when I came on set.
Oh God, one of those.
That's not an apology. That's an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
but like,
people.
in what context does heavily medicated make something sound more reasonable?
Acceptable? I don't know. A film about drug abusers, maybe that's about it. We'll call it method acting.
More like method acting.
So
Capital M.
so I'm sure goofy scenarios, kind of like, well, actually, real quick, because you guys have mentioned doing a lot of college films. Where did you guys actually go to college for this?
I went to school locally. I live in Southern California. I went to school at a nearby community college in Cerritos. And I went for my commercial music degree. They didn't have a film production. I didn't actually go into film production. I wanted to go straight into recording. I because of Kennedy here, I was enticed by film production, so I went that route instead of music. But I learned all of the fundamentals for practical recording techniques, learning how to mix, learning how to use a digital audio workstation, stuff like that. Working all these assignments and working with bands, and I had all of that experience in the 2 or 3 years I went to school, and then I popped out and kind of hit the ground running in the live sound industry, and then eventually went over to film.
And then Kennedy?
Oh, I really thought he was just going to say I went to school. Kind of went off for a bit. I went to 2 schools. I went to the University of Central Florida for cinema studies, which unfortunately I discovered that didn't really teach me how to make movies, but how to watch movies.
The study of cinema. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they wouldn't let me into their film program at the time, because I wasn't. I thought it because I wasn't good enough, but when I went to talk to the teacher there, he said, "No, it's actually because the stuff that you showed us, we've got nothing to teach you. Like, you wouldn't benefit from the program." I'm sitting there like, really?
Yeah,
But turns out I needed to learn a lot because when I went to go get my master's program, I went to Chapman University, which, if you're not familiar with them, they're the guys that produce the people who made Stranger Things.
I was not aware of
Also,
that.
also that one film, The Fourth Kind, but I imagine they're a little bit more prouder of Stranger Things nowadays.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
I feel like I've heard that name before, but I don't remember
Chapman
where.
University.
The Fourth Kind is a movie about a pseudo mockumentary where they make it they film it like a documentary, but it's about like a woman who gets abducted by aliens.
Oh,
but they try to
one.
take it like a documentary.
Oh,
the
geez.
Owl.
Oh.
I think of the Owl. The Owl is a very prominent character. Chapman University puts out a lot of really good student films. Actually, I've got a little DVD when we still use DVDs. I have a little DVD of what they put out in like 2007 ish,
Right.
2005, 2007. It's got some really special short films on there. Actually, some of them are very near and dear to me, and not because I worked on them, just because I really enjoyed them. Chapman's got an amazing program. Same with the college I went to. For those of you who live locally in Southern California, if you're looking for a city college, I went to Cerritos College, and the program over there was really tight. Like they want nothing but the teachers and staff there want nothing but the best for you. And you're not going to learn a whole lot about film and movies, but you're going to learn how to do proper recording the right way and learn what the tools are and how to use them. And same when you go to a university like Chapman College, they really have a incredible program where you get actual hands-on experience. Their facilities are incredible. They've got editing bays, sounds like multiple sound stages, huge warehouses of props and cameras and equipment, and they've got a Foley stage and recording booths. I remember walking onto Chapman University the first time and just going, whoa.
Because I remember the way that I had met you, Chris, was this was it was about the time that Kennedy was putting together the Operation Flustery Day.
I don't think I know of this. Go on. We'll skip past it.
At the time, Ashley Nichols was doing these like calls with her patrons because she has a Discord server for her Patreon page, and go away, stupid calls. She was doing calls with her patrons in the Discord server, and about when she and Michael were taken off. Was when Kennedy showed up, and he started shooting the shit with everybody. And once Michael and Ashley left, he stayed in the room, and he was like, "Okay, guys, I'm gonna need your help with something." He breaks down what's going on. He's going to Cameo to get a bunch of these actors and voice actors to do basically an Ashley bit. I guess specifically to fuck with Ashley, but the whole thing was like an appreciation thing for Ashley because she had done so much to bring together just the massive community that that she has now. So he says, I'm putting up some of the money for it. If you guys want to pitch in for it too, more than welcome. Here's where you can do so. I pitched in. Sometime later, the video comes out. So that was like one of the 3 times that I've been in a call with Kennedy at the time. But when I started deciding I wanted to do this heavy metal cover of a song from Mystery Skulls, I went to Kennedy because he was still fresh in my mind at the time, and I said, "Who can you recommend me to for help with this little project of mine?" He basically said, "Well, I can give you the email for a friend of mine, Chris Moore, who does mixing and what was it? Mixing and mastering, was it?"
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I got in contact with you. You and I had I think it was an hour-long discussion almost.
We talked for a good hour and a half, dude.
Yeah.
It was our first ever phone call, and you were like, "Hey, I want to learn," and I was like, "Let's chat."
Yeah. So sometime later, I take this like lesson in like some of the audio basics and how it's gonna translate into work as a voice actor and all that,
Right.
and doing the song.
Yeah, we
Um,
did recording, we did editing basics, I think, and
yep,
I showed you this. I think we did a PowerPoint presentation
yeah,
on that I had on proper recording techniques and a little bit of uh, I guess recording technology and how it works.
yeah. So when you said you were willing to take a look at like some of the voice acting bits that I had done at that point, I sent them over and you recommended to me that I check out, various like audiobooks, and Magus Elgar was one of them. Um, it took a couple of weeks for me to open it up on Spotify to check it out, and I was hooked, because since you introduced me to it, I think it was like back in August, was it when we had that little lesson thing?
Mm-hmm. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Since then, across that time, I had listened to the whole series like 3 times over. Um, uh, Part of it because I enjoyed it that much, but also part of one of those times of listening to it, it was trying to get those little nuances of the delivery. Um, and one thing that definitely stands out to me about the voice acting is the voice of the narrator, Rick Cabral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, that guy's voice is like honey
buttery smooth.
smooth. It is like if there ever is a voice that I would go gay for, that would be it. Rick Cabral has an amazing voice to listen to, and the way you guys work him in to actually be a part of the story, even though he's just the narrator, there is so much
It's
comedy
it,
from that.
what's
That's
actually
all.
kind of funny about Rick Cabral's performance in that
Mm,
was how whenever he was talking and doing narration, he was fantastic. Like he was exactly the kind of voice that I wanted. But the peculiar thing about him was that the initially whenever I needed him to break character, he it almost seemed like he wasn't sure what to do with the character. Where he's like, I'm not sure like what kind of emotion you want this narrator to give here at first, and I'm like, you know what, run with like, and I'm like, you know what, I want to run with this. This is great because this sounds like a narrator who doesn't quite have the experience of like someone who is a person and is used to saying person things.
mm-mm.
Oh my god, that's
Very much the. I think of the. We go back full circle to the one trick pony kind of performance where you're like, well, I'm a narrator and only a narrator, and I'm really, really good at narration. And you're like, be a normal person, and they're like, what? How? I'm supposed. I'm not acting. What? You're paying me to not act? Like, yeah, break character. That's the direction.
I would have been standing there going, I was like, this is not the problem I would have expected to have today.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, but
We
yeah,
did. We loved working. We loved working with Rick. Um,
I would
I
imagine.
I just I mean I just loved working with the whole cast. Honestly, when we get what's really really cool about film production or project creating a project generally
Mm.
is the ability that you have to collaborate with people. And when you're working together in the room and you have that energy of everyone bouncing ideas off of each other and you're actually working through something and you're making something really really big, like you're just creating hours and hours and hours and hours upon content.
Yeah.
Just the vibe that you get in the room is unlike anything else that I've ever had. It's way way better than working on like a group project in college, and one of the reasons being is that everybody wants to be there,
Yeah.
right? Everyone loves what they're doing. They all signed on to something. They all want the best for this project, and it's really it's really unlike anything else I've ever experienced, whether you're voice acting or even on the production side, like when I'm working with a client on the concept for sound. right?
Mhm.
When you're even, talking about like, oh, what does the world sound like? What does the environment sound like? What kind of ambiances do we want? What should the sound of this thing be? Um, and just the ideas that people throw back and forth are really, really cool. Like when Kennedy and I were working together on Magus, talking about what the dragon sounds like or what some of the magic powers sound like. And most of that was Kennedy, most of that was you. um, you did a lot of the ambiances for the world, and a lot of our big set pieces, minus minus a few things that either I had done
Like
or
one or two
Jason, or
episodes.
Yeah.
yeah, like a few. I think I did maybe 2 episodes. I sound designed episode 2 and 3. You took on 1, 9, a few others.
I mean, I took on everything except for like 2 or 3 episodes, and
Yeah.
like even our director like only did, our other director Andrew Cornell only did like 1 or 2 episodes to set up the design work, but he didn't
Hmm.
actually like we like I ended up taking that from taking off his hands after that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, a big thing about Magus Elgar was that a lot of the work was done by me, but I had a lot of really talented people helping me out and getting it on board.
Well,
Because go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely a big part of doing productions of any kind. Like, Hazbin Hotel has had a number of the people from that crew showing up on the Honeycast and just bullshitting, most of the time on there, and that's I'm imagining that's just like a sampling of the kind of energy and dynamic that's shared behind the scenes while the production is going. So when I look at the type of energy that Magus Elgar has, I just imagine like there was a video you guys had posted of one of the Wallace sessions. It's supposed to be recording people going into absolute panic, and the energy that I saw in the people moving around that studio was like it was nuts. And
Yeah,
so
it was also incredibly inaccurate because I had them like running around when I should not have been doing that. But it was something that was really helping get the performance down. And everybody was having a lot of fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Our Walla Day was probably one of the most memorable bits of the production experience, for Magus.
yeah, and that video was just like that's just on the voice acting end. But then I start to think about like what is it like with the sound designers interacting with each other, all the writers, the directors having to work with the voice actors, uh, you know, the finalization and getting things ready for the release. So, like if that type of energy is maybe not an everyday thing, but like an idea of where things can go,
Mm.
just with the crew, working together like that, it's I can imagine that becoming a very fun experience to have over a long period of time like that.
When I get Something I want to say is when I get an idea in my head about the way something should sound, I I obsess over it, right? I just get super super excited about one thing. So on this last project, Alone, the sci-fi film, um, I get I was super thrilled about the black hole. Right, there's this engineer is stuck alone in her escape pod, nobody to talk to, and she's drifting through space, and she's gonna get sucked into a black hole, and she doesn't know what's gonna happen to her, and she's got to find a way out. And I'm like, this thing needs to be scary and hollow and eerie, and it's got to give you chills. And the director was like, yeah, but I really want the spaceship to have its own unique sound. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, the black hole. And I went on about this for weeks, and I remember even watching an interview with the director like weeks after the film had released, and he was doing this like interview with the is I don't know, some video company, right, that had like donated their lights for this
Right.
project. And he's like, oh yeah, and Chris did a great job with the sound design. He was really excited about that black hole. And that was the
Oh
only
boy.
sound out, minus like the destruction of the engine, or the creaks and cracks in the pod. And all of the metal kind of collapsing in on itself and all these other elements that I put in. But the one thing that he had vocally mentioned was
Black
this is
hole.
the and you know it's kind of the same thing, and you know everyone in production, everyone brings their own really unique idea to the table, and they're gonna have one or two things they're really really good at, and you know that's part of the fun of collaboration um is just seeing what other people have to give, and I think that's what made Magus Elgar and you know some of the other projects we worked on, Hazbin Hotel, even this one that I'm doing coming up, which I wanted to announce in the beginning, I totally forgot about it. This other animation that I'm working on called Battle of the Bands,
Oh yeah, yeah.
about a bunch of musicians that are in a band, and you know they all get superpowers, and they've all got I don't really remember what the motivation is, but they all
Off
get
to a great start.
superpowers and they want to battle it out to be the best, and it's going to be awesome, and you should definitely go check it out. We've got a Instagram and a Facebook page, and um, I'll post some resources for that later. But that's another project I'm really excited about. That the talent on this show is incredible. We've got a bunch of great musicians, and composers, and recording VO talent, production crew, artists. Like everyone is amazing, and they're just this project is unlike anything I've ever seen. This is super super unique, and I cannot wait to show it to
I'll,
people. And it dude, it's going to be so awesome.
I'll have to.
It's going to bring rock and roll back into your home. If you miss going to concerts, this is going to bring that energy back into your living room or your laptop, and it's just going to be so freaking amazing. I can't wait.
I'm gonna have to bug you for a link so I can put it in the
I
description for
will
this.
absolutely let you bug me for a link. In fact, I'll pull it up right now.
Yeah.
I'll email it to you.
But yeah, it's those productions having that kind of dynamic is always something. It's actually part of what like makes me. It's the primary thing that makes me pursue voice acting is not like the accolades of whatever performance I give or just having my name attached to whatever project. It's after seeing the everything going on with the Honeycast and all that, and even just talking with Dave Capdeville and Kennedy Phillips. I've talked with you and them before, not in more public spaces and open Discord channels, and just having that ability to interact with other people and just have that kind of fun is the main thing that I'm looking for. Because I haven't really been the most social type of person until the last couple of years.
You've done auditions though, right?
Like
you're getting your name out there. You've done a few projects yourself.
I've done a crap load of auditions, and I've already gotten a few roles. It's something I'm still working on, but like I said, I've got the workshop with Reed Rudy coming up pretty soon, so I'm expecting that to be a massive help. But it's at the same time I've come to accept a bit of information that I was given by one of I think they were a sound engineer or something like that from the voice acting club, the Discord channel or server rather. Yeah. They go by Audio Lich, and they told me that an acceptance rate for a good acceptance rate for a professional is like somewhere in the neck of the woods of like 5% of all the auditions they send in.
Yeah. When I had said earlier that a voice actor is auditioning most of the time and then working some of the time, that's very very true. You work more to get auditions than you are actually working in the booth getting paid per project or by the hour. It's yeah.
Yeah, and I'm honestly I'm just fine with it because I look at a lot of the auditions I go for, and some of them are kind of like, I think I can handle this one, and then I look at auditions for what Kennedy decided he wanted to try to launch, the proof of concepts, was it, for the Kobold thing?
Yeah, I just closed the auditions for a little proof of concept I'm building called Clutch, a Kobold story.
Yeah. I looked at the auditions for that and I was like, I have not done kobolds before. I'm gonna see if I can't have a little bit of extra fun with this.
Yeah, like again, for a lot of it, it's just good fun.
Yeah, and so it's and it kind of made it click with me is just like take a look at it, and if you feel you need to go full ham with it, sure, because having different deliveries is obviously a good thing, but you know enjoying what you're providing for whatever the project is, um, that's probably going to be my primary goal is to just really enjoy what I'm doing with it. So that's part of what makes me want to do with so many of these, auditions is that I can see so many roles that I think can be quite fun to do. Some of it I got to get myself into a better mindset to do them, in different, more fun ways. But it's a process, not going to change overnight. And hopefully it gets to the point where I can enjoy being in projects, like Magus Elgar, where it's just so goofy, campy, fun, and just all around enjoyable. Because it took a lot. I gushed a little too much when we tried before over Magus, and it definitely took a lot to keep myself from doing so here. But
Well, we appreciate it, man.
yeah,
And you know what's really cool about us, like talking like this, having these kind of conversations, is this is part of the relationship development. If I what's really funny if for all of you newbies out there, for people who are just getting started, if I had gone into the mindset of like I want to like that basically put that my best friends would be, I guess, paying my bills to a certain degree. It's they're I'm working with my best friends. I'm developing relationships every day, and that's the only mindset you need to have is I want to go in there, I want to give my all, and I want to be helpful.
right.
um that's what really brings that energy to a project. um working with Kennedy, even like we started out as friends. He invited me. You were nice enough to invite me to the Foley stage where you had taught me how to do Foley and sound design, and we kind of became friends from that experience, and we started hanging out and getting to know each other, and then before you know it, we were working together. He was bringing me onto Megas, and then now we just exchange projects back and forth. Hey, can you do this? Hey, what do you think of this? We call each other all the time and say, "Hey, I just finished something. What do you think?" And
Just kind of checking on each other's
we
work.
just
Yeah.
check up on each other. That's how we check up on each other, because we don't do anything in person anymore. What are you talking about? we don't create new memories. We just call each other up and go like, "Hey, what's up? I did this. What do you think?" I mean, followed by him kicking my ass on Halo, but that that's it. Um, but yeah, man, that's why we develop these relationships, is because we really make friends from them. And I mean, what we do in this industry is as sound designers and voice actors is there's nothing else like it. There's absolutely nothing else like it, and it's a super super cool unique experience.
I'm gonna
Super
sh-
unique experience.
I'm gonna
And
shoot off
it's
of
it's
something
cool unique.
I'm gonna
I'm
shoot off of
I'm
something you mentioned a minute ago. What
What's
the
that?
hell is Foley?
Okay, so Foley is
Take it
the
away,
art of
bud.
what?
Take it away, bud.
Foley is the art of recording sound effects. Typically, when you record a film, when you're on set, your sound team is not going to be picking up all the little sound effects that your microphones are going to miss. They're focusing on the dialogue because that's what
Yeah,
matters.
or production doesn't get them. They don't show up in production tracks. Muting
Yeah.
mic.
So what you end up having to do is you end up hiring a sound designer to record all those sounds separately and put it into the film after the fact. So usually Foley is when one guy or lady or whichever is in a room full of props. The movie is playing on a projector on a screen in front of them, and they act out all of the Foley as it's recording, as it's playing, and you'll end up recording like hundreds of sounds for a short, for even just a short film.
I want to interject here real quick. I applied to a job at a Foley stage. It was an independent little location in some guy's basement. Actually, he had dug out his basement to create a Foley stage, multiple flooring, and we had a little tile of granite flooring and a little tile of wood flooring, a little tile of carpet, et cetera, et cetera. And I go to apply for a job at this guy's studio in his house because he was working on like indie Netflix films and stuff, and I remember him leaning in real close to me and asking me. So he's this old crotchety looking dude, right? He leans over and he asks me, "So Chris, how many pairs of shoes do you own?" And I go, the ones that I'm wearing, sir. And he looks down at my feet and he goes, uh-huh. And I mean, and this guy's got a closet full of maybe 50 different pairs of shoes. Just a car door, a kitchen sink. I mean, everything but the kitchen sink, and then the kitchen sink. Like anything you can imagine was in his Foley stage: pens, cups, broken glass, whatever. And that's what you're gonna find on a Foley stage. Old typewriters. I remember the Chapman University stage had this like old typewriter, and they had things categorized by sound. I think metallic, plastic, fabric. They had a closet full of props.
Yeah.
Cloth. They had this really dirty brown duffel bag that I just remember so fondly. Like coat, like you pick it up and then your hands are black.
No, thank you.
Just absolutely disgusting. But
those Foley stages get really dusty.
Oh, I can imagine.
They're not clean places. If you're a neat freak, what I love about a Foley stage is that it's organized chaos, right? A good Foley artist cleans up after themselves so they know where to find that thing that they're looking for when they go to do their next project. But they're not clean people. There's just they don't wipe shit down.
Oh man. All right. So I guess that answers that. Foley sounds like a load of fun.
It is.
But I guess
watch a few videos on it. There's a bunch of YouTube videos on it.
I'll have to, because I remember there's one for the video game Republic Commando. The only bit that I can immediately recall is the footsteps are recorded using football pads just being shoved into the ground, basically.
Sometimes it really depends.
Yeah,
and the layer things.
Yeah.
What you got to do in sound design is one sound effect doesn't necessarily give the added weight to something. What sound design is the having multiple textures to create one thing.
Yeah, because I remember, I think it was mentioned once. Wasn't it something about because my favorite character from Magus Elgar, hands down, Kake. I think something was mentioned about how his voice was done.
Yeah, his Kake's voice was a combination of me and my cat that I spliced together.
How do you accomplish getting your cat to vocalize on command like that?
Well, my cat's already pretty vocal, but the other part of it is that a lot of it really comes down to how you handle your cat. So, for example, my cat is sitting here sleeping as of this moment. So let's see if I can't get her to make a little perf sound. Oop. Hold on. Hello.
You heard a mule.
Gonna be great.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear the cat, but uh, I don't know. I can't hear anything with the cat.
Yeah, I think that it's because the microphone's sound canceling.
Oh, fair enough. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, that might be part of I've heard a couple of times during this interview. There's this like weird, like tinny robotic effect that happens every now and then.
For what now?
There's this
yeah,
weird.
you were getting this weird tinny robotic sound.
Yeah, that's probably because the microphone that I have is trying to sound cancel because it doesn't sound like a voice that's coming out. So it's just
Ah,
thinking like, oh no, we should get rid of it.
yeah, because you're still coming in clearly. It's just it's noticeable sometimes, but
It's phasing.
yeah. But yeah, I guess one thing that I want to get into before we wrap up is if from what I recall, sound designers are also, I guess, primarily responsible for demo reels, or is that something else?
Well, that's a different job. But
Yeah,
if
there's
you want to
demo
do voice
reel
demo reels,
producers. Who wants
God,
who wants to go first?
you do it. You do it.
All right. Uh,
And we're quiet. There's demo reel producers. You can get most engineers sometimes they only do uh, they only do demo reel production, or they advertise for that.
hmm,
But when you're working in sound, um, you're if you're a sound editor, you know how to cut together a demo reel, or you can learn how to cut together a demo reel.
right.
Because at that point you're just the type of content that you're creating is sometimes irrelevant to you, because it applies to your craft, it applies to the skills that you have. And at that point you're cutting dialogue and putting sound effects together and putting in transition and mixing it all together and making sure it sounds good, um, or whatever sounds good to you or the client. So yeah, it's very much a part of being a sound editor or engineer.
Hmm. Uh, how often have you guys done demo reels for other people, commercial character or otherwise?
Kennedy's, you've done a few of your own, I think, and you even paid someone to do it. You actually went to a demo reel, uh, someone who actually does demo reels for a living.
Yeah, I actually had gone to A Plus Voiceovers
Hmm.
for my animation reel, and I went to J. Michael Collins for my commercial reel.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and J. Michael Collins is a guy who's one of the best in the business, but he's also wicked expensive.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he charges like $2,000 for a reel or something
Ooh, damn.
nowadays.
Yeah.
But like I got nominated for an award when I did my commercial reel,
Well,
which I didn't even know was a thing.
I didn't know either until you mentioned it.
Yeah, but it was cool. Like I've got two voice reels that are on my website now that I use for if I don't have the time to do like a proper audition and I just want to like, hey, here's a sample of my work.
um, what I wanted to try to get into real quick was because I'm sure you guys have worked at least with a few different people.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to try to figure out was, are there any particular like things, whether it's in a studio physically or remote recording, that stand out as like maybe little quirks or things that you guys feel should voice actors should be aware of when they go to make a demo,
Well, when they're
aside from
making a
being ready.
demo, something that they really need to do is treat their recording space. So many times I've run into people who they want to start up something or they want to do something, but they just have like a laptop microphone or they just have like a simple microphone in their bedroom,
Mm.
and you hear all the echo of their room and it doesn't sound great. And that's stuff that has to get cleaned up.
Mm.
If you're going to be doing any voice acting, you need to make sure that your recording space is clean. This means there's no hard surfaces nearby that are bouncing your voice off of their walls and causing reverb and echo. Um, and there's no background noise that's disrupting things. A great way to fix this is by getting like egg crates or sound absorbing foam and setting it up around your microphone. Or heck, if you're really on a tight budget, just go to Lowe's or a hardware store and buy a furniture pad for like $40 and put it over your head.
Mm. I do in my space. I've got a closet, and I got a clothes hanger bar in there, right? So I move all the clothes out of the way, and I take this big, heavy blanket, and I put this blanket over the clothes hanger bar. It's this big wool blanket, and I put my microphone right in front of that, and I sit down in front of my closet and I talk into the mic. And that a heavy wool blanket, I don't even need to surround myself at all, but that heavy wool blanket has enough sound absorption properties to actually reduce a lot of the reflections that I would get in my bedroom. Um, and even something as simple as that, using what you already have, going out and buying a furniture pad and some PVC pipe and creating a little booth for yourself, um, just really works. You don't want. I've worked on so many audio books where people are recording off of their Apple EarPod headphones, or they have a Bluetooth headset and they put that on and say this records sound, which yes it does, but you're looking for the fidelity of your voice. We want all of the frequencies captured, or we don't want this tinny sound, and we want to make sure that the fullness of your voice and the fullness of your performance come through. So even if you are getting into voice acting, make sure you've got a good microphone. Go out and spend a little bit of money on an analog microphone, not a USB, not digital, but an analog microphone with an audio interface. And for a total of $200, you are ready to record clear voiceover. The rest is just making sure that you have a treated space. Other quirks, I would think, are what's important. I wouldn't call it a quirk, but I would say what's important about going into a role, or is actually reading the script in advance and learning your character, or at least knowing what you're auditioning for, having the character in mind, and having some practice as to what that character is doing, and also be open to take direction. I remember being in some professional voice acting scenarios in a studio where we're recording dialogue for a DreamWorks television show, or we're recording something for Disney, and the voice actor behind the mic, when the director and a room full of people say, "Hey, we want you to try this in character," be ready for it. Learn to be flexible and adaptable, because that's what's gonna make you a really good voice actor.
Fair enough. Do you think these kind of experiences, like, how often do you find people in the industry talking with each other about maybe not exactly all the little things, but like, do you find names stick often in the industry?
Yeah, like I said earlier, if I had known that I'd be working with some of my best friends, and collaborating with some of my best friends in this industry, then I would have jumped into production very differently than I did, because some of these people that I work with are just sorry, there was someone talking outside my room. I got distracted. Some of these people that I work with, we come back and we collaborate on different things, or we'll recommend each other for different projects. Kennedy and I are throwing projects each other's way all the time. I had the chance to work with someone recently on someone that I just met, and I was doing a mix for this short film that I just finished. And I bring her on and I say, I can't see you in person, but, let's hop on a Zoom call and you can watch me mix this film. And we'll work together. And I gave her a sound supervisor credit, right? Like she did no physical work on this project, but I'm like, you were as much of a part of this as I am. And, go ahead and hop on, watch it, give me suggestions, listen to the mix and tell me what you think. And we'll give you credit for the film. And now she did such a good job and she gave such great input. I'm going to send her some material in the coming weeks to edit for me. Like here, I've got this audiobook that I'm doing, maybe you can cut some dialogue together for me. And it's stuff like this. This happens all the time. This happens all the time. I'm expecting some stuff to roll my way in the next few weeks. Of people that I met 2 or 3 years ago, they want to work with me now. It's what's really important is you got to just stay in touch with people. Everybody's your friend in this industry until they're not.
Fair enough.
Until they're not. But yeah, definitely keep the connections, man. That's what's super important.
Yeah, because it's part of going back to my first interview with Crystal and Chris. They said it's like the industry could do with a lot more kindness inside of itself. Like, I can definitely get how that is now, because people do talk to each other, and as I'm finding out, the voice acting community is much smaller than people might think it is.
They're very tight knit.
Oh yeah.
And the higher up you get in terms of exclusivity, right? You're very, very close with your peers.
Yeah.
So close with your peers. When you're at the bottom of the barrel and you're kind of finding your way around things, it's the competition is a lot bigger. But those connections are gonna last you a lifetime. Right. So it's one of the more crucial stages of getting into voice acting is, because you're meeting so many people, you don't know who's gonna bring you onto something,
right?
Or who's gonna want to work with you later.
All right. So I guess that'll do it for this. Thank you guys both for jumping onto this little call and doing this interview with me this week, and I really appreciate it.
Are we out of time?
Yeah, man, anytime.
Yeah, we're already at about 1 o'clock.
Wow. Hey, before we go, is there anything for all three of us? Is there anything that all of us are excited about coming up that people should keep an eye out for?
Regrettably, not much I can talk about.
Okay. So Kennedy has things that he can't share, but
I mean, aside like I've got that proof of concept Cobalt thing, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be like broadcasting that or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, auditions are already closed at this point, so whether or
where
it goes from there is up to you. So,
and Andrew, what about you?
For me, I haven't seen very many updates yet on a couple of projects that I've gotten into. So I don't really have much to share at this time, aside from my little podcast group, the Insanimators, is back now, and we're back we're back to promoting all the different indie creators and independent artists that are out there, because want to try to get signal boosts out for that as much as we can. So definitely doing that. I don't know if you have anything, Chris.
The one thing, and I put it in the Discord for you to post later.
Yep.
But the one thing I'm excited for is Battle of the Bands. The animation I mentioned earlier about rock and roll and superpowers and musical competition, that's going to be great. And of course, there are some things coming out that I can't talk about, but that I am very, very excited for. So when they do release, we'll be in touch, and I'll be sure that you get that out there.
All right. I'll definitely keep an eye on that. I'll make sure the Battle of the Bands is put in the description of the video immediately after we're done with this. But otherwise, thank you both for taking the time for this.
Yeah, no worries.
But
yeah, man. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
This was fun.
Yeah. But otherwise, for everybody listening, keep an eye still on the hashtag Gab Hominem. I'm in the process of getting an actual page set up for it now. But beyond that, the only thing I can really tease right now for the next guest is a YouTuber that I do enjoy watching, especially within the Warhammer 40K community. So, do keep an eye on that, especially if you're a 40K fan like I am. There will be more coming up after that, and I'm constantly working on more fun guests to, share input on the entertainment business for anybody to learn from if they're trying to get into it themselves. So keep an eye on it, you guys. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for the next episode. Thank you all.
Hooray!
Have a good night or day. Have a good weekend.
All right. Bye bye.